Little girl wouldn't take off her turtleneck, then the teacher saw what was underneath. Before we start, let me know, where are you listening this story from today? Drop a comment below, also subscribe the channel. The first time Ms. Elena Harper stepped into Maple Grove Middle School, she thought it would be just another day. A substitute teacher for 3 years, she was used to the rhythm, new faces, new classrooms, same old lesson plans. She liked the freedom of it. No long-term commitments, no staff meetings that dragged on forever, no parents calling about grades. Just show up, teach, and leave. But Maple Grove was different. Not because of the school itself, red brick walls, flickering fluorescent lights, the usual chaos of 12-year-olds, but because of a girl named Sophie Keller. Elena was covering for Mr. Grayson, an 8th grade history teacher out with the flu. The assignment was supposed to last a week, maybe 2. She arrived early that Monday, her canvas tote bag stuffed with a water bottle, a granola bar, and a stack of handouts about the American Revolution. The classroom smelled faintly of chalk and teenage sweat. She wrote her name on the board, Ms. Harper, in neat, looping cursive, then waited as the bell rang and kids shuffled in, backpacks thudding against desks. Sophie caught her eye almost immediately. Not because she was loud or disruptive, but because she wasn't. She sat in the 3rd row near the back, her small frame hunched over a notebook. Her hair, a mousy brown, hung like a curtain around her face, and she wore a navy turtleneck sweater that looked too big for her. Elena didn't think much of it at first. Kids wore all kinds of odd clothes. Maybe it was a comfort thing, like her own habit of wearing the same lucky scarf on tough days. She called roll, stumbling over a few names, and Sophie answered in a whisper, barely audible. Here. The day went smoothly enough. The kids were chatty but not unmanageable. Elena handed out worksheets, explained the causes of the revolution, and dodged a paper airplane without missing a beat. Sophie, though, stayed quiet. She didn't raise her hand, didn't talk to her neighbors, didn't even doodle in the margins like most kids did. She just worked, head down, her pencil moving in slow, careful strokes. Elena made a mental note, shy. Maybe nervous. She'd seen plenty of kids like that. Middle school was brutal for the quiet ones. By Wednesday, Elena started noticing patterns. The loud kids, like Jake who always had a joke, or Mia who argued every rule, were easy to spot. But Sophie? She was a ghost. She never volunteered, never asked for help, never laughed. And that turtleneck, it was the same one every day. Navy, slightly frayed at the cuffs, pulled high enough to graze her jaw. Even when the classroom got stuffy, when other kids peeled off jackets and fanned themselves with notebooks, Sophie kept it on. Elena wondered if it was a laundry issue. She'd subbed at schools where kids came from tough homes, where clean clothes were a luxury. But Sophie's sneakers were new, her backpack sturdy. It didn't add up. That afternoon, during a group activity, Elena walked the rows, checking progress. Sophie was paired with a girl named Lila who was doing all the talking. Sophie nodded along, her eyes on the desk. As Elena passed, she noticed Sophie tug at her collar, like it was itching her. The motion was quick, almost reflexive, but for a split second, the fabric slipped. Elena froze. There, on the side of Sophie's neck, was a mark, red, jagged, like a bruise or a burn. It was gone before Elena could be sure, hidden again by the turtleneck. Her stomach twisted. Was that real? She wanted to ask Sophie to step outside to check, but the bell rang and the kids bolted. Sophie was out the door before Elena could call her back. In the faculty lounge later, Elena brought it up casually. There's a girl in my class, Sophie Keller. Always wears this big turtleneck. Anyone know her deal? The other teachers barely looked up from their sandwiches. Mrs. Patel, a math teacher, shrugged. Sophie's quiet. Good grades, never a problem. Mr. Donovan, who coached soccer, chimed in. Yeah, she's been like that since 6th grade. Probably just hates short sleeves or something. They laughed, but Elena didn't. She sipped her coffee, replaying that glimpse of red. It didn't look like a rash. It looked deliberate. The next day, Elena watched Sophie closely. Not in a way that would scare her, just subtle glances during attendance, while passing back quizzes, during silent reading. Sophie's routine was the same, head down, turtleneck up, hands tucked into her sleeves. But now Elena noticed other things. The way Sophie flinched when someone dropped a book. How she scratched at her neck, always the same spot, like she was trying to erase something. During lunch, Elena checked the attendance file, hoping for clues. Sophie Keller, age 13. Emergency contact, Linda Keller, mother. No mention of a father, no red flags about behavior or health. Just a blank space where additional notes should have been. Friday brought a heatwave. The school's air conditioning groaned, barely keeping up. Kids complained, rolling up sleeves and gulping water. Elena opened the windows, letting in a sluggish breeze. Sophie, though, stayed bundled in that turtleneck. Her face was flushed, a sheen of sweat on her forehead, but she didn't budge. Elena's unease grew. Why won't she take it off? She decided to test the waters. During a break, she crouched by Sophie's desk, keeping her voice light. "Hey Sophie, it's pretty warm today. You okay in that sweater?" Sophie's eyes widened just for a second before dropping to her lap. "I'm fine," she mumbled. Her hand went to her neck, covering it. Elena nodded, not pushing, but her gut screamed that something was wrong. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She lay in her tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling, picturing that red mark. She'd seen enough as a sub to know kids hid things. Bruises from fights, cuts from accidents, worse. But this felt different. Sophie wasn't clumsy or reckless. She was scared. Elena thought about reporting it, but what could she say? "I saw a mark for half a second?" Schools needed evidence, not hunches. She decided to wait to watch. One more sign and she'd act. Monday came too fast. Elena was back in the same classroom, Mr. Grayson still out. The kids were restless, buzzing about a pep rally. Sophie was there, same turtleneck, same hunched posture. But today something shifted. During a lecture, Elena asked the class to open their textbooks. Sophie reached for hers and the turtleneck sleeve rode up just an inch. There, on her wrist, was another mark, red, angry, shaped like a word. Elena squinted, heart pounding. It looked like weak. Before she could process it, Sophie yanked the sleeve down, her face pale. She didn't look at Elena, but her hands shook as she flipped pages. Elena felt sick. Weak. Stamped on her skin like a brand. It wasn't a bruise or a rash, it was intentional. She thought back to the neck mark. Had that been a word too? She couldn't be sure, but now she was certain. Someone was hurting Sophie. Not just hurting, humiliating. Labeling. She kept her cool through the lesson, but her mind raced. Who could do this? A bully? A family member? The idea of Sophie going home to whoever was doing this made Elena's chest ache. At lunch, Elena went straight to the counselor, Ms. Vargas. The office was cluttered with posters about bullying and self-esteem. Elena shut the door and spilled everything. The turtleneck, the neck mark, the word on Sophie's wrist. Ms. Vargas listened, her face tightening. "That's concerning," she said, scribbling notes. "But we have to be careful. Sophie's mom, Linda, is involved. PTA board volunteers all the time." "She'd never," Elena cut her off. "I'm not saying it's her. I'm saying someone's hurting Sophie. We need to check." Ms. Vargas nodded, promising to talk to Sophie privately. Elena left, hoping it was enough, but doubt gnawed at her. Schools were slow. Parents were tricky. And Sophie was still out there hiding. The next day, Ms. Vargas pulled Elena aside before class. "I spoke to Sophie. She wouldn't show me her neck or arms. Said she's fine, just likes her sweater." Elena's heart sank. "Did you see her face? Was she scared?" Ms. Vargas hesitated. She was nervous, but she denied everything. "I called her mom too. Linda said Sophie's been stressed, maybe acting out. Suggested it's a phase." Elena wanted to scream. A phase? Stamping words on her skin? She pressed Ms. Vargas. "What's next? You can't just let this go." The counselor sighed. "I'll document it. If we see more, we'll escalate. But without Sophie talking or clear proof, our hands are tied." Elena felt helpless. She wasn't Sophie's real teacher, just a sub. She had no power, no history with the school. But she couldn't walk away. That afternoon, she tried talking to Sophie again. After class, as kids packed up, she lingered by Sophie's desk. "Sophie, I noticed you seem quiet lately. Everything okay at home?" Sophie froze, her backpack half-zipped. "Yeah," she said, barely a whisper. Her eyes darted to the door like she was scared someone might hear. Elena softened her voice. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. About anything." Sophie nodded, but it was mechanical. She bolted, leaving Elena staring at an empty desk. The rest of the week was torture. Elena saw Sophie every day, still in that turtleneck, still scratching her neck. She looked for more marks but saw nothing. Sophie was too careful now. Elena started noticing other things, though. Sophie never ate lunch with others. She'd sit alone, picking at a sandwich, then throw most of it away. When kids worked in groups, she'd shrink back, letting others take over. It was like she was trying to disappear. Elena's worry turned to obsession. She Googled Sophie's mom, Linda Keller. The woman's social media was perfect. Smiling photos, posts about bake sales, captions like "blessed to be a mom." It made Elena's skin crawl. Was Linda the one doing this? Or was it someone else Sophie was too afraid to name? Friday brought the breaking point. During a pop quiz, Sophie dropped her pencil. It rolled under Elena's desk. Sophie hesitated, then crawled to get it, her turtleneck shifting as she stretched. Elena, standing nearby, saw it clear as day, another word on her neck. Useless. Red, fresh, the skin around it raw. Elena's breath caught. Sophie noticed her staring and yanked the collar up, scrambling back to her seat. Her eyes were wide, pleading, like she was begging Elena not to say anything. The bell rang before Elena could react, and Sophie vanished into the hall. Elena didn't hesitate this time. She went straight to the principal, Mr. Ramsey. His office smelled like old coffee and paperwork. She laid it all out, the marks, the words, Sophie's fear, the counselor's dead end. This isn't a phase, Elena said, voice shaking. Someone's abusing her. We have to do something now. Mr. Ramsey rubbed his temples. Ms. Harper, I appreciate your concern, but we can't jump to conclusions. Linda Keller's a pillar here. Sophie's never reported anything. Elena leaned forward. She's scared. Those words, weak, useless, they're not random. Someone's trying to break her. Mr. Ramsey promised to investigate, but his tone was cautious, like he was more worried about lawsuits than Sophie. That night, Elena couldn't eat. She kept seeing Sophie's face, those silent pleas. She called a friend who worked for Child Protective Services, not giving names, just asking what it took to get a case opened. Physical evidence, her friend said. Photos, witnesses, or the kid talking. Without that, it's hard. Elena hung up, defeated but determined. She wasn't giving up. Monday morning, Elena arrived early, hoping to catch Sophie alone. The classroom was empty except for one person, Linda Keller. She stood by Elena's desk, arms crossed, her smile tight. Ms. Harper, I hear you've been asking about Sophie. Elena's pulse raced, but she kept her voice steady. Just checking on my students. Linda's eyes narrowed. Sophie's fine. She's sensitive, that's all. I'd appreciate it if you didn't stir things up. Before Elena could respond, Linda left, her heels clicking down the hall. The encounter left Elena rattled, but it also lit a fire. Linda knew something. During class, Elena watched Sophie like a hawk. Near the end of the period, Sophie asked to use the restroom. Elena nodded, then followed a minute later, pretending to head to the copier. The girls' bathroom was empty except for one stall. She heard a soft sob. Sophie? Elena called gently. The sobbing stopped. It's just me, Ms. Harper. Are you okay? Silence, then a shaky, I'm fine. But the crack in Sophie's voice said otherwise. Elena waited outside, and when Sophie emerged, her eyes were red. The turtleneck was crooked, exposing a sliver of her neck. Another word, stupid. Elena's heart broke. She didn't push Sophie then, she was too fragile. Instead, Elena went to Mr. Ramsey again, this time with a plan. Call CPS. Get a nurse to check Sophie today. If you don't, I will. Mr. Ramsey looked cornered. All right. But this better not blow up. By lunch, the nurse had Sophie in her office. Elena wasn't allowed in, but she paced the hall, praying. An hour later, Ms. Vargas found her. They saw it, she whispered. Words all over her neck and arms. Weak, useless, stupid, loud. Like someone's been stamping her for weeks. She wouldn't say who, but CPS is coming. Elena's knees nearly buckled. Relief mixed with rage. The nurse had taken photos, documented everything. CPS arrived that afternoon along with a social worker. Sophie was pulled from class and Linda was called. Elena watched from a distance as Linda stormed into the office, her face a mask of indignation. This is ridiculous. Elena heard her snap. Sophie's just dramatic. But the photos didn't lie. Neither did Sophie's silence. By the end of the day, CPS had enough to act. Sophie was placed with a temporary foster family, an aunt on her dad's side who lived an hour away. Linda was under investigation, barred from contact. Elena didn't know the full story. Whispers said Linda's boyfriend might be involved, not Linda herself, but it didn't matter. Sophie was safe. For now. The next week was quiet. Sophie was gone, her desk empty. The other kids noticed, asking questions, but Elena kept it vague. She's with family, she said, and left it at that. She taught her lessons, graded papers, but part of her was still with Sophie, wondering if she was okay. Then on Friday, Elena got a note from Ms. Vargas. Sophie's aunt had enrolled her back at Maple Grove, wanting her to stay with familiar faces. She'd be back Monday. When Sophie walked in, Elena barely recognized her. No turtleneck, just a soft gray t-shirt. Her neck was clear, the redness fading. She still looked small, still guarded, but her eyes were brighter. The class greeted her like nothing had happened, and maybe that was best. Kids moved on fast. During a break, Sophie approached Elena's desk, clutching a notebook. "Miss Harper," she said, voice stronger than before. I wanted to say thanks. For noticing." Elena's throat tightened. "You don't have to thank me, Sophie. I'm just glad you're here." Sophie nodded, a tiny smile breaking through, then returned to her seat. Over the next month, Sophie bloomed bit by bit. She started raising her hand, joined a group project, even laughed once at Jake's dumb joke. The turtleneck never came back. One day, during a class discussion about courage, Sophie spoke up unprompted. "It's when you're scared but you keep going anyway," she said. The room went quiet, like they all felt the weight of it. Elena just nodded, her eyes stinging. The investigation dragged on. Linda's boyfriend confessed, claiming it was discipline, not abuse. Linda played innocent, but the stamps were found in her craft room, along with a journal listing Sophie's flaws. Elena didn't follow the legal mess closely. She didn't need to. Sophie was with her aunt now, safe, healing. And Elena? She kept subbing, kept noticing the quiet ones. Because sometimes a single glimpse, a word under a turtleneck, could change everything. Wow, if you made it to the end, you're a champ. What did you think of Sophie's story? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that grab you and don't let go.